Alright, so we have a tier list here. This will be a tier list for the first playthrough of Sengoku Rance, and we'll generally go over the general overall usefulness of a character, when you can get them, and if they are useful for dungeons and so forth. Alright, so first off, we have Rance here. If you played Fire Emblem, you might be familiar with the Lord type character, where if they die, it just ends the game. Rance is very much that. However, he's also somewhat useful. Having a level cap of 99 makes him very useful for dungeons later on, and you're kind of going to need him to beat the game. So, yeah, you kind of do need to baby him a little, level him up a bit, and make him useful. Katsue Shibata is your first garter. You'll also get a semi-generic garter as well. Um, he is also very useful because he's a garter, so you might as well put him to good use. Um, Ranmaru is your one of your samurai. Samurai start off very good early game, and then they start to fall off mid to late game. Um, she can probably solo a few fights in the beginning as well, so her usefulness is very good. In the beginning, at least. I'm tempted to put her at C, but I think because she's there at the very beginning, I'll put her there for now. Here we have Fuka. So Fuka is a Miko that you can obtain from an event in the beginning. Unfortunately, like most Mikos, Fuka is not very useful. However, she does have a passive that lets all other commanders deployed that survive the battle gain one extra troop for a victory. So that makes her slightly better, and she's sort of needed for the Orochi dungeon, but you're not going to do that in the first run, so we'll put her in the D tier. Uh, Haru is an archer that has a single AoE attack. Unfortunately, archers are probably the second worst class in the game, right behind Miko. And while you could use him, he is available quite easily because you'll likely have taken over the Hara territory first. But I think you'll find that his AoE is very middling because it deals half damage, and it doesn't even interrupt spell casting. So I'm going to put him in a D tier. Unfortunately, you will not get her. She is just simply not available on the first playthrough. She is automatically added to Rance's harem, and that's that. Also, if she were playable, she'd be absolutely terrible as well. Just like Ashikaga Choshit. Absolutely no contest. Don't use him. EQ Ashikaga subordinate is, I'd say he's fairly useful. He is a tactician, and tacticians are always useful for their buffs. But he also has a special ability that reverses the battlefield bonus of the battle, which can be game changing, honestly. Unfortunately, you can only use it 3 times, and then he kind of turned into a pretty generic commander. But other than that, I'd say he's pretty good. He is not automatically captured, though, so you might need to reset to capture him. And that's basically why I'm going to have to put him in the B tier. Isoroku. Isoroku is basically automatically captured when you take over the Ashikaga territory. And she can become useful with her Yamamoto Barrage if you get her affection up a level. Unfortunately, archers are not very good. But the barrage is fairly good. It's basically 0.9 damage, 90% damage instead of 100% damage. But you also get to bypass guard. I'd say she's C tier. Suzume. So Suzume is automatically recruited every game, every single time. No questions asked, with the pretty much same troop count. And she can never die, so you can use her pretty much in any battle, um, and be fairly certain that she's safe to use. I'm going to put her in A tier because she gets Assassinate 2, and Assassinate 2 basically has a chance of just wrecking a commander, even through the barriers. There's really no downside to using Suzume at all, really, and you can't fire her. But even though you can't fire her, she's also very useful by herself. It's not one of those situations where you're forced to use her, therefore she's good. Logical fallacy. No, 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 no. She's actually very useful. Also very useful in dungeons because she's a ninja that will likely get Dungeon Scouter and lower the amount of enemies that you have to kill. Very, very good. Yoshikage. Very old man. He is a monk that has Action Fan 2, or Action Transfer 2, sorry, not Action Fan 2. Action Transfer 2. I don't think he's that good, but he is useful outside of combat thanks to his high negotiation ability. So I'm going to put it in C tier because he's actually very useful outside of battle, and you'll likely also want to character clear him for the additional national power. He's also very easy to obtain because you automatically capture him after you take over the territory. You cannot get Yukihime on the first playthrough, and she's also nearly useless. Unfortunately, all of these Mikos are very useless, except with two exceptions, but we'll get to that later. Haken Dasen is a character that you can recruit through an event after you conquer the after you conquer Texas. Unfortunately, he is an animal tamer, and animal tamers, while having extremely high troop count, are virtually useless and basically only exist to inflate enemy troop numbers when they try to rubber band to match your troop numbers. Very, very terrible. Don't ever use him. Cube Man. So, Cube Man is alright outside of battle. He has fairly high, I believe, construction and negotiation, but I'll have to double check. You'll probably never put him in battle, but he's also very easy to recruit. Definitely, definitely C tier. Yuzuhara. Unfortunately, while she's very powerful and has a run and gun, which is basically assassination with damage. She only has one action. However, there is an item called the Worker Bee, which you can obtain in a different territory, that adds 2 actions for the battle, but at the cost of half of the current troop count, which means that once you put it on, you just never want to remove the item from the commander, and you'll want to put it immediately on a commander if you are going to use it on a commander. So the Worker Bee is what makes her usable, and I think I'll have to put her in the C tier because while Musketeers are able to attack very quickly, they have one of the highest base speeds in the game, and are very likely to move first. Unfortunately, they also don't have the ability to counterattack, and they have to be in the front row. So that makes their usefulness a bit limited. I'm tempted to really put her in B tier, though, because of her ability, but we'll see how that goes. Now we have Natori. Natori is a Miko that you get from the Miko Institute after you conquer the territory. She's automatically tossed in prison, and then you can immediately recruit her after. She is one of the best units in the game, no questions asked. Her negotiation skill is extremely high, and she also has one of the most broken abilities in the game, Miko Storm 2, which basically deals 30% damage total troop count damage. So if you use Natori's Miko Storm three times, she's basically guaranteed to wipe out the entire army, enemy army. Provided you can refresh her actions with a monk, such as Abarako Dosan, who's unfortunately not on this tier list, but as a semi-generic commander, I guess she doesn't really count. Um, and that is that. Moving on, Kenshin. Kenshin is S tier, without a doubt S tier on the first playthrough, because you can automatically capture um, her territory, the Uesugi territory, and she is automatically able to join you via an event after you capture the territory. Very, very useful. Her ability, despite being warrior, her ability, um, Fortune of the Battle War God or something like that, basically reduces the actions of every single enemy commander by one, unless they have exactly one action. That's extremely good, and paired with Urza, who we will talk about later, you'll find out that she's one of the best characters in the game and able to one piece of the Exodia. This is the five pieces of the puzzle here that we are going to build. Ainaue. So Ainaue is a tactician that you can also obtain right after recruiting Kenshin, and she's one of the best tacticians in the game. She comes with Asset Tech, which increases the amount of money you earn per turn, extremely high non-combat stats in negotiation, search, and construction, although construction doesn't really matter as much. And as a tactician, she also has starts off with Battle Tactics 2 and is able to get Battle Tactics 3 and is also able to nullify enemy tactician buffs very easily as well. Definitely pick her up after you conquer the Uswegi territory.